You know what the problem with technology is? There's just too much. We have now so many options that we look back at the technology of the past and wonder, how did we ever evolve from that, and where are we now? And trying to make sense of everything can oftentimes be one of the most daunting parts of trying to grasp any sort of modern technology, let alone try to figure out how to actually apply it in a class setting. It's tough. And I want to introduce a way to categorize it. I don't think there's anything formal or official. There's nobody fancy that had come up with this. It was just something that I developed over time, and I thought, hey, you know what? If it works, great. If it doesn't, then we can fix it later. So I developed this thing called ACE. And ACE is a 3-category system that addresses technology and in the ways in which it's designed to help teachers teach kids. A would be for assessments. Any tool that assesses that, sounded like Obama there, any tool that assesses us on our way to a more positive future. So we take the assessment technology, and if it does it better, faster, more efficiently, more completely, find something that it does that makes it more advantageous to use, we use that. And so using something like an online quizzing platform would be a form of an assessment technology. I've often seen, and this happens all the time, where teachers would give a project to students, and they would use the project to assess the students and how much they learn. And this could be done, but inherently what you're doing is when you assess someone, you're assessing the amount of quantifiable knowledge that they have. You're not testing their thinking. You're not testing their creativity. You're not testing their problem-solving capabilities necessarily. You're testing their knowledge. You're testing how much do they know. When we get to an expression technology, we're going to talk a little bit about how that's different than an assessment technology. And we'll talk about a few of those assessment technologies in the tablet app world. So the next one would be C. C is the, and I don't know if it's that way or this way. The camera's like backwards. So anything, any technology, any broadcast, anything that delivers information to a person, and so any technology that is used to guide that or present that in a way that's efficient or time-saving, that would be considered a content distribution technology. So what if we had something like the E? We get to the E part, an expression. Expression technology does something very specific, and what it does is it allows the tools. They could be, in this case, they're going to be iPad or tablet tools, for the student to express what they know. So expression specifically deals with higher cognition, judgment, assimilation, prediction, creative problem solving, where they are asked to produce something that's new and never been in existence before. It's a unique product. And in order to do this effectively, you need to have a unique collection of products to do that with. So we're going to talk a little bit about those today. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about assessment technology. So this week we've handpicked a few. So why didn't we do more? There's got to be more than what we're showing you. Well, there is. There's a huge, enormous, mind-boggling quantity of things. And the quantity doesn't oftentimes equate to quality. So what we've done is we've handpicked a few that we know people have worked with and are starting to sort of catch on. This is the idea or the difference between an emerging technology and a cutting-edge technology. Cutting edge means it's just been released. Very few people have used it. Maybe it's fresh out of beta testing. And that's cutting edge stuff. Emerging technologies is something that's now sort of cut past that. It's now catching on, and it's emerging into the mainstream, into usage, into whatever market it has to be designed for. So let's take a look at 3. The first one is an app called Socrative, and it is designed specifically for immediate feedback for formative assessment. So, do your thing where you go like, okay, is that formative assessment? What's it summative or formative? Summative is like the summit at the top. That's where you assess everything you've covered. Formative is where you see how it fits. So, okay, we're tailoring it. It's like a formative. So is it form-fitting? Is it fitting? Do we need to adjust or tweak things before we get to the summit or everything's done? So a formative assessment is an opportunity to see where the kids are at any point in time. So if you go to Socrative.com and you get a chance to log in and make an account, and it's free, at least the Socrative 1.0 is free, and you can get along with some of the apps there. And then I did it today, as a matter of fact. I hadn't actually used Socrative before. I know, shame on me. I should know everything, but I don't. So I went and I tried it. And I tried it with AP Chem Kids. So you figure, well, you know, at times like these little fancy toys, like trying to con kids into paying attention. Well, I figure these are AP Chem Kids. Their AP test is done, so they don't really have to pay attention if they don't want to. So I went to check to see how well this would do. And so I put together a couple quizzes. And actually, when I say put together, I meant stole from someone else. So I went on to, there's a downloadable list of a huge quantity of pre-made quizzes, and they give them a little Socratic code. And so I took that, put it in there, and so I had them take a quiz on Harry Potter. It was the Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. And so I got that and you know, gave them to it. And I watched them in real time, and I paced the quiz. So I told them when the next question was coming. So it gave them a chance to either collaborate or talk together. And well, the kids knew a lot about Harry Potter. I mean, they're nerds. So yeah, they knew their Harry Potter trivia, and it gave me you know, answer by answer that told me exactly who did what and who answered what, and it gave it to me by number. It didn't actually tell me who the individual was and what they did. It was like a graph. And say, you know, it's multiple choice, and they say, okay, so many people picked A, so many people picked B, so many people picked C, and then I thought, okay, well, let's do this again. Only I'm going to change the test, and I gave them a test on atomic bombs. It was just, you know, test I thought that they might know something about. So I grabbed that, plugged it in, and then I put it as a self-paced test. And what was interesting is the self-paced test provided some quiet, you know, a little bit of time where the kids could kind of answer their own questions. And it was a little bit quieter, but it didn't afford the conversation that usually comes with the questions and things. It was a great, it would have been a great conversation starter had the answers been a little bit more, I don't know, what's the word? Contradictory or conflictive, or there might have been a little bit more open place for opinion, but there wasn't. There was a clear-cut answer, and most people picked it. So after that, I decided, okay, well, I guess we're good. And then I saw something down in the corner, and there's a thing called Space Race, and you can divide the class up into as many different, you know, sections as you want. So I divided the class into 6 different sections, and they made little teams. And as a matter of fact, the graphic is right there. And you can see that the little spaceships represents a different team, and so now you're dealing with correction and speed. And so depending upon how many questions they get right and the speed with which they get it right, the spaceship wins or crosses the line. You can go first, second, third, and see how that works out. But it didn't turn out half bad, and it was easy to set up. And you know, I don't know if it's going to take place of my, you know, actual quizzing system, but I could download it. It would give me the option to download a spreadsheet that had everyone's names and their scores associated, which questions they got right and wrong, and I could analyze that through Excel. I could, but I don't know if I'm ready to make that my online option. The nice part about it, though, is that they have something that's designed for tablets and smartphones, and it's really, really easy, and it didn't crash. I use another online assessment thing called Kia, and it's $49 a year, and I have unlimited quizzes. I can make whatever I want. But the problem is that when I export the stuff, or I have the kids take the test, they take them, and guaranteed at some point it's going to crash. And kids get kicked out, and I'm constantly resetting things. And, you know, Socrative was silky smooth. It was super smooth. So there is an advantage to at least that. So Socrative had some decent features, was great for classwork stuff. It's official grading thing, and you can send you an Excel sheet, and so there's some good things in there. So sign up for it, play around with it, make some quizzes, try it. You know, try it with your family, make it like in a family quiz night or something like that. And everybody's smartphones, you know, all do it, and you know, make some fun stuff. The next one that we're going to be looking at is a program called Kahoot, and sounds like a restaurant. Maybe because there's a country western bar called In Cahoots. I don't know. The game in the classroom is a classroom response tool. It's a lot like Socrative, and it's all device compatible. The screen, let's see, there's an on-screen leaderboard. And it gives you the options to do some long-term tracking of these students, which is a unique aspect that it has that some of the others don't. But again, it's a response tool. But they download the app and then they enter what's the classroom, and then they go from there. So check out Kahoot. That's not the bar. Go kicker dancing. So the app Kahoot. So check that out. The next one down, we're going to be looking at is something called Class Dojo. Now, I know from experience, because I've taught any range of teachers, from youngins to oldins and everywhere in between. And in elementary school, one of the things that is considered most important is behavioral management. And I've seen a lot of different systems. For example, I've seen the colored card turning system. I've seen the clip up, clip down system, all the colors. And if you use them, they work well. There is a time expenditure with the old behavior systems. And so I did some of the calculations based on elementary school teachers that I know who've used these systems. And you're looking at an average of 2.5 hours to 3 hours a week managing this system. Now, obviously, it's worth it because if you do a discipline system right, it works. But this system is a time consumer. I mean, imagine what you could do with 3 hours. I mean, that's almost 4 episodes of CSI on Netflix. So there's things you could be doing with your time. Now, the Class Dojo allows you to have the tablet with you and then allow the correction and the monitoring right there. So you don't have to stop class and have Johnny turn his card and then come back to see, and then at the end of the day, record everything and make sure that's logged properly. And frankly, I don't think my ADD could handle that for like 5 seconds. I would be like, make a list. I don't want to do that. So for someone like me who wants to continuously do it and just have it right there, I open up the Class Dojo, mess around with it. And the kids can design the characters that they want to be represented by online. The parents get an up-to-date, real-time view of how the kids are doing, so you don't have to send the reports home. I mean, that's a good hour, possibly hour and a half right there. So that's something you might want to look into, especially if you're in the younger grades. Or I can imagine this would be very, very useful for special ed, because behavior management is oftentimes something that's put on the goals and things that they want to accomplish. Now, this next one is kind of my personal favorite, and that's from a teacher standpoint. And as a university professor and as a high school teacher, we more so than the elementary school people have a tendency to be more the sage on the stage kind. We don't want to turn the kids loose and just say, okay, go find the answers, because they won't, or they'll find the wrong ones, or not know where to go. Oftentimes, especially with something like chemistry, they don't know enough to know what they don't know. So this is traditionally what we used to think of in terms of content distribution. You'd have, if you had videos, they were on a DVD or a VHS tape, which I haven't seen one in a very long time. The Xerox machine was obviously a form of distribution technology. You Xerox copied things and then you distributed it to all the kids. And it made it great for one-on-one exposure and one-on-one learning. How about, let's see, the PowerPoint. The traditional PowerPoint. You needed something to show it on, so I remember I started showing mine on a 55-inch tube television that weighed like 800 pounds and hung from the ceiling with reinforced concrete rafters, and it was heavy. But yeah, PowerPoint was one way to deliver content, and when it was first used, it was new and great and awesome, and then it became very quickly not awesome. And that's a whole nother discussion on why that happened. But, and then when all else fails, the verbal communication and presentation style of the teacher became a type of distribution technology. I don't want to call it technology, but a distribution channel. Well, and although that's still the case, the teacher now has the ability to then create themselves in a different way to then become that channel and, in a sense, maybe duplicate themselves and then become that channel and then do something else. Say, for example, let's say one of these, here, before I get ahead of myself, let's address this now. Streaming technology and video. So beforehand we had DVDs and VHS players, which were oftentimes linear, and we couldn't, there wasn't like scrolling real fast to get to places, and it became difficult. If you didn't have the DVD, you were hosed. There was no duplicating it, and there was no, massive storehouse of videos like YouTube where you could just kind of search for something and find it. So if you had the ability to record yourself writing on your computer or doing a presentation, Well, then you could duplicate yourself. You could actually show it to the kids and then allow yourself to then break off and go do something else while the content distribution was going on. As a matter of fact, I used to do that. I don't do it so much anymore because I don't teach the regular chemistry, but in the times that I did, I would record one in class, and then I would, for the next few classes, actually play that presentation in class. And while it was going in class, I would then go somewhere else, and I would walk around the room, or I would monitor what was going on, or do behavioral stuff, or check email, or set up a lab, or something. But I would watch them, and the craziest thing is that they would respond to the video like I was actually doing the presentation. It was strange because I would do the presentation for the first class, and then I would wait. I'd say, does anybody have any questions? Or I go, and so how many protons are there? You just shout them out, And then all of a sudden you'd hear this like 4, 3, 1, 4, 2. And then they're talking to the video, which is hilarious because, they actually pay more attention to the video than they do to me when I'm trying to do it. And there's actually a TED interview of Salman Khan saying the same thing. And he goes, they pay more attention to the video than they do to him in person. It's funny. So we've got the video distribution, and then we've got this, we can use Word docs or PDF files to distribute what we used to Xerox copy. And so we could put them into this printable, openable format or adjustable format. And we had Google Docs, we could share those as well. That's another type of distribution technology. In any sort of instructional material we wanted to, we could actually send to someone for them to use. Wow, it's starting to get kind of... She knows that? Where before we had the Xerox copier and we could just copy stuff and then send it. Now it's not as easy. Now we actually have to have something that is a platform with which we can distribute all of this stuff. So the website-based distribution platform had to be used. And teachers have used either LMSs or Weebly or their own website to distribute all this stuff where students could go, pluck it off of there, bring it down to where they were working on it, and then be able to take care of it from there. So some advantages to the new system. Well, it costs almost nothing to maintain. It's not like these guys have overhead. I haven't used a copier in years and years and years, so I know that I don't have to pay or deal with the copier costs or the paper costs. Okay, so the sun was going down. I had to change the lighting. So, in terms of the advantages of the new system, once you have it in place, and that's kind of the expensive part, when everybody's got the hardware to process this stuff, or tablets or computers or laptops or whatever, it doesn't take much to maintain the content and the distribution of the content. This is an anytime, any place learning style. You don't have to be present to get the handout when you can download it anywhere on the planet that has an internet connection. This gives you a richer and more varied learning exposure. You have access to more videos of different things happening, of the same content or experiment. And it puts students in control of their learning. Now, if you've done any sort of analysis of the Common Core, you'll remember that this is exactly what they were after, is student ownership of what it is that they were trying to learn. And put them in control, let them make some decisions, which is exactly opposite of everything that we've been doing for the last 15 years, which is force feed them facts so that they can barf it on a test. Pretty much. Now, see, there are some certain advantages with the older system, too, in the sense that there's a low initial investment. They don't all have to have hardware or technology to be able to get access to it, but the maintenance on this thing is pretty harsh. Oftentimes schools will pay $25,000-$30,000 a year for paper and copier leases to be able to distribute their content, and that's really, really expensive. So there is an advantage, though, to the fact that the paper doesn't crash. It doesn't get viruses. When the network's down, paper doesn't care. It doesn't run out of batteries, and it doesn't have issues trying to log on. It's pretty straightforward and very, very simple. The history of behavioral acceptance, and what I mean by that is that traditional technology or traditional content mechanisms have the advantage of having been used all the time. The students get it. They understand a handout. They understand the mechanisms behind what's expected when you give them some paper to fill out. They get it. They understand it. They don't have to think about it. It's just done. Now it's changing a little bit as things start to change at the lower levels. And then when they get to the high school, middle school levels, then maybe they'll be a little bit more practiced with the newer ways of doing things. But as of right now, I bet half of my high school kids would much rather just get a handout than have to do anything on the computer. Of course, that could be just that they're really lazy. So they don't have to spend much time on tech support in a sense, unless the copier goes down. But see, that's the thing. If the copier goes down, you're dead in the water. And then you just have to fall back on, voice or some dry erase board markers. Have fun with that. And even if the power goes out, all of this, traditional paper stuff still works, assuming you already made your copies. Now, some apps that might throw your direction, things you want to look at. Now, there is one here upon the list that you're obviously going to look at, and one of them should be an automatic download. It is the absolute keystone that holds together the paperless system that I've built at Mesa High School, and it's called Notability. And in a nutshell, it downloads PDF files and allows you to annotate on them, like handwrite directly onto them. And the reason why that's such a big deal actually became much more prevalent actually after I had a paperless system in place for a few years. After going to a number of conferences and talking about it, I realized that there's a security issue. It's very difficult to find out who sent whose work in if everything's the same. And sometimes the kids would just do stupid stuff like change the font color, but everything's exactly the same. But copy paste is not the same as like copying someone's stuff. Now, if they're copying it off another paper, it has to make one trip through the circuit to be able to get onto the paper, where copy paste makes no trips, none, zero. There's no looking or understanding the content at all. Now, you can't stop a kid from cheating if they're going to go ahead and cheat, but what it does do, though, is it identifies the kid because of the handwriting. Accomplishing the same experiment or the same work, instead of sending a Word file that's done, on the computer, what you're doing is you send a Notability file or a PDF file made, let's say in InDesign or Microsoft Word, and then the kids work on it in handwriting, just like they would a piece of paper. It's like digital paper. And then they can email it from the iPad or the tablet, and then it gets turned in like an email, like into an inbox or like a Google email inbox. And then, of course, it gives you the ability to look at the student's handwriting, hand drawing. It's way better for math and science and foreign languages to do it this way because they understand handwriting. They know how to handwrite, which means that the expression part of what they're doing is a subconscious procedure. Handwriting can be done without having to actively think about what you're doing. When I had AP Chem students do stuff on PowerPoint, they didn't learn any of the content because they spent all their time dealing with the PowerPoint and trying to get it to do what they wanted it to do. That's not when technology works well. That's when you just do it on paper. It's better that way. So you look at the neurocognition properties of using technology wrong and when you use it right and the right system. So Notability, if you're going to use a paperless system, you need a Notability type of program that allows the students to handwrite onto the document for security reasons and for thinking reasons. Now, there's a couple of in particular, content distribution things one should take a look at. First one, outside of Notability, TouchCast is an interesting video production program and allows you to embed things and allows the user to touch on them and go places while they're watching the video, which is pretty cool. And Erasma is a whole experience in and of itself. You just got to play with that one. Trust me, I'm not going to ruin anything, but it is hilarious. And Remind 101 is more of a reminder of doing the content type of tool where you get the kids to log into Remind 101. They become sort of subscribers, if you will. And if you go to the website or the app and you type stuff in and then you send it out to them, it reminds them of things. And that's so important because in an age where we have to fight for every ounce of their attention, we have to constantly be able to almost create ads of our own to remind them that they have stuff to do and things that they're responsible for. Especially in middle school, because they're just not at that point where they can manage their own life, really. So those are some things that you might want to suggest. If you wanted to, or you're interested in the flipped classroom, the collage program is very, very good. It allows you to change backgrounds and do all the really cool handwriting stuff. And it records it in the non-purchased version, the free one, for 2 minutes at a time. And you can upload it to the collage site, or you can save it to your camera roll, which allows you to then edit in iMovie and post it wherever you want. So I would look into that if you're into the flipped classroom. Now, the next tool down there, we're looking at expression. Expression technology is any technology that allows the students to compile something new. Now, the stuff that we're looking at here, there's really There's not a lot of surprises. I mean, iMovie is probably the one that's sort of the no duh. It's like, hey, yeah, okay, I get it. iMovie, it works, right? So you make a movie, it forces you to think about compiling about what you're going to put it in there. Keynote, iRecord does great audio and audio recordings. ArtRage is great for hand artwork that kids can do to assimilate and build things. And there's a green screen app, and it's the first one I've seen actually works pretty darn well. And Lance introduced this one that works with iMovie, and it produces some pretty good green screen matting. So if you want to do some green screen stuff, that's probably the best app to start out with. Also, look into an app called Action Movie. If you really want to put some kick into your movies, that's a good way to do it. It's cheap and inexpensive and just awesome. It's awesome fun. And they sell like little 99-cent packages where you can put in extra special effects and things. Remind me, my daughter made a movie where it was about types, I think it was forms of speech, and she actually used the Star Trek transporter special effect in a language arts movie. It was awesome. Pretty good. So, in review, the ACE model, assessment, content distribution, and expression. It allows you to look at the apps, figure out where and how they fit, and allows you a bigger, more complete picture to understand how these new emergent technologies can help you become a much more successful teacher in the classroom and get lots more cool stuff during Teacher Appreciation Week when they come up with the gift cards and the special notes and stuff that smells really nice.